usher of Armand. He was a dental graduate of Emory, and what I mean to convey here is, well, it says here Ish, which I guess to us is sort of like Mensch, and to let you know this is a really special person. He graduated Emory School of Dentistry, which treated a school that treated some people so badly that they had to apologize later on. And like I was talking the other day, some people would take that and take it like get out of jail free cards to never support the institution again. But he went on, and he was head of the Alumni Association. He got an award from the Alumni Association, and that's really quite remarkable. He done many things in dentistry and orthodontics. He was president of Georgia Dental Association, among many other things. And the thing that I always was impressed, Leon Aronson had a big practice that was a good practice, and that's not easy to do. Speaking personally, he was always a friend to me at St. Louis University. He would come in and give a CE course. I mean, it was a fabulous course. It was better than anything you could get on the outside. He still goes to St. Louis and participates in the comps. And just as a little thing of how well he figures things out. On the 50th anniversary, he gave the invocation. And you remember at the 50th anniversary banquet, Kenneth Chenery Marshall had just passed away. And the deal was, I thought that there was going to be a pall cast on the whole affair. And he got up and gave the invocation, and he took care of all that. He encapsulated our feelings about Ken Marshall and put a sort of a period on it, or at least a semicolon, and we went on with the meeting. He's done a lot of things, just an incredible number of things. And I'll pronounce this wrong, but he paid to have the Shabbat ceremony, to have it written up and annotated so that people who were not Orthodox would sort of understand what it was, could understand it more. And I found that extremely impressive. And I suppose, if you're going to weigh everything, to me that would count as much as anything. But also, just as an aside, he was president of the International College. If he hadn't been president, I wouldn't have got in. So the deal is, he is really, really, really a person of substance. He's the kind of person that, awards don't define the awardee. It's the awardee that defines the award. And tonight, the Merit Award has risen measurably in distinction and value. Erwin Leon Aronson.
There's nothing like following Lyle Johnson to the microphone. First, I want to congratulate Tom Broderick on an outstanding year as president, and also congratulations, Nick, on the incoming year. Wish you much luck. Do you know that this man, Tom Broderick, not only president of the Orthodontic Education Research Foundation, is president of the Georgia Dental Association at the same time? When when Tom called me to tell me that I'd been selected for this award, I was confused. I said, Tom, I think I've already received that award. He said, no, this is the big one, the Merit Award. And then Joe Meredith called me to confirm it. And I thought about the past recipients that began with none other than Charlie Tweed, guys. That's the grandfather of Edwards orthodontics. And then when you look at the list of past recipients, there are orthodontists that have written textbooks, that have devised orthodontic appliances, that have been deans of dental schools, that have been chairmen of departments. So I thought to myself, why me? And then I remember a friend of mine, a dentist in Savannah, who said, Leon, you're lucky you're not a woman. I said, why? He said, you'd always be pregnant because you can't say no. Young lady can But regardless of the reason, I am totally overwhelmed and most appreciative of the honor that I'm receiving tonight. And here we are at the annual meeting in my hometown of Savannah, Georgia, with my good friend, associate, former partner Tom Broderick as president, with all of my friends and family here. It just doesn't get any better than this. And it's been a great meeting, and I compliment you and everyone involved with the meeting, Tom. I would now like to introduce some of my family members. And I told them that this is a command performance, and you will be. In fact, 5 of them got off of a cruise ship in Tampa this morning to drive up here. But anyway, I'm going to start. This is my family table, the central one. First, I want to introduce my wife, Barbara. Barbara's my little sparrow. And I live in fear that one day she's going to fly away from that little head. Now, the head table, I'll start with Cyril. Cyril, and I want you guys to stand up, don't be embarrassed. Cyril is a dear friend. He is the, I don't want to say partner, that implies a lot of stuff. Anyway, he's a very good friend of the family, and he is associated in many ways with my daughter, Amy. Amy is a PhD professor of Spanish at Valdosta State University. And then next is Linda, the middle daughter. Linda, stand up. And now Linda's daughter, Emma, her daughter Emma is the one grandchild other than Bruce's 2 grandchildren, who children are like all the family, but Emma's at Tulane University. She couldn't be here tonight. But when Emma left the nest, Linda, after being away from school for many years, went back to school, is now a family counselor and made just about all A's after being away from studies for many, many years. Very proud of you. And then Bruce. Bruce is an attorney. He's from Bronxville, New York. He's in a very prestigious firm in Atlanta called Austin & Berg. Bruce. The youngest daughter, Hetty. Hetty was determined to go to the University of Colorado at Boulder and zeroed in it and made it happen. And later on, she got a master's at Emory in public health, and she is presently a freelance writer. Proud of you too. Proud of all of us. Another son-in-law, another New Yorker. Josh Marks, stand up. Great Neck, New York. Graduate of Dartmouth with a small but very prestigious firm in Atlanta. If it's okay with me, Josh, their #1 client is Ted Turner, so I think that's all they need. But Josh is definitely our tree hugger in the family, and we stay away from politics.
I got it if you want. I got it if you want.
Amy and Josh have 3 kids. Jacob. was surprised when I walked in tonight. I didn't even know they were coming. But I want to introduce Barry Levine. Barry was in the class of 1982, and Barry passed away. Well, Barry's wife, Pam, is here. Pam Levine from the and Zach is Barry's son, who's in the orthodontic residency in Jacksonville. Zach. His lovely wife, Shannon. That little Mexican is an attorney. Can you believe it? Now, we don't have any friends in Savannah except one couple, so there's only one Savannah couple here. That's Larry and Sherry Zaslowski. You know, my family's heard the words OERF, OERF, OERF for so long that I wanted them to be here to find out what this is all about and not think it's a dog barking. Tom, your presidential reception last night was the best that I can remember. And it's really good to see all the classes reconnecting. And my group's the elder group, but I've done my best to take care of them. And I want to take the time to introduce them. I'm going to start with Norman. You guys stand up to Norman Nakaji from Asheville, North Carolina. Pat and Mary Dryling from Kansas City, Missouri. Al and Sally Bearer from Porterdale, California. Did I get it right? Wendell Hoshino from Honolulu. Now they're so casual in Honolulu that Wendell didn't even have a sport coat and went out and bought a sport coat so he could be with me. And last but not least, Judy Tights. We're so happy that Judy's here. Judy's husband was Bud Tight, and most of you know Bud Tight. He was the leader of the pack, and Judy, I can't tell you how happy that you're here, Judy. And Bud Tight and Al are past presidents of this foundation. There's two other members, one other member in particular that's part of the pack is Marty Cara, who he had a medical problem right when he was getting ready to leave, so he's not here. And I also received greetings from Taco, the full-time professor at Cade, and also Don Oliver, so they both wanted to be here. You know, in my mind, the foundation and the department, they're tied at the hip. They're all one family, and sometimes it's kind of hard to separate the two. But the foundation has always been there to support the department, and only when there's a real need is assistance requested. But to give you an example of some things that the foundation does, they support the residents who are taking the boards. They have dinners throughout the year for residents and applicants. They give the faculty support. They have a discretionary fund for unexpected expenses. And most importantly, they provide continuing education such as we're enjoying at this meeting. So the foundation does a lot, and again, we need to support the foundation. I was privileged to know the founders of the foundation, and I can still see Tony Spatafore walking around the room with a cigar, encouraging people to give. And he would be very pleased to know that his son, Chucky Spatafore, later became a president. Chucky. Without a doubt, the luckiest day of my life came in June of 1965, when I got a call from Dr. Kenneth C. Marshall. He said, "Leon, I got a spot in the class for you." Oh boy, did that change my life. I was at Barksdale Air Force Base in Shreveport, Louisiana, and that was June. I didn't get out of the service till the end of July, but I had a very nice commanding officer. He said, "Leon, go get started and come back here and we'll do the paperwork." So that's what we did. I've been around long enough to witness the evolution of the Center for Advanced Dental Education. The department started in, I think, 1948 when Dr. Ken Marshall came out of the University of Michigan as a resident and started that program with 2 students, Pete Soteropoulos and Vernon Tretzel. And look what it is today. The first department, or first clinic, was nothing like what we see today. It was basically, I'm getting a little historical perspective. A lot of you know this, but many don't, especially my family. But that first department was like a flat-on apartment. There were 5 chairs on each side. There was a supply desk back there. The lab was downstairs. And to go to the lab, you better watch out, you would bump your head on the part of the door. That was the first department. Then later, when the St. Louis University Dental School was closed, the department moved next door into the dental school, which was very nice. In time, we arrived at the point that we now enjoy, which is the first class institution at the Center for Advanced Dental Education. And if you look on that building, you'll see the name Drylin Marshall. You don't get your name on a building for being a nice guy. You get it for a lot of other reasons. And a big reason that building is there is Pat Drylin. Pat, stand up. But in that original setting that I described, I had the privilege of being taught by orthodontists such as Ken Marshall, Pete and Gus Soteropoulos, Leo Mastarakis, Quentin Ringenberg, Vernon Tretzel, George Uchiyama, Phil Evans, Joe Baxter, and so many more. And ironically, last night I was talking to Bill Mastarakis, Leo's son, and Bill told me that today marks 24 years since his father passed away. Thank you for that information, Bill.
We love you.
Most were part-time instructors, but that has always been the strength of that department, and continues to be. And some in this room, I'm sure, I know for a fact that some of you are still part-time instructors, but I don't want to lose fact of the full-time instructors. I mentioned Taco. I wish that he could have been here. Gus Soteropoulos was there for years and years, and we recently lost him. Don Oliver, who came over from Washington University, he had retired, but came to St. Louis and became a full-time professor. Dr. Kim, who's here, and so many others through the years that I'm not that familiar with. And you don't become the department or the school with the reputation we have without strong leadership. We started with Ken Marshall. Ken Marshall handpicked Lyle Johnson. Lyle Johnson got the calling to go back to Michigan. And then we had the utility player, Pete Soteropoulos, who was always on the bench ready to go. He'd be the chairman when needed. And now up to current time, the great leadership of Buzz Behrens, who's also the editor of our orthodontic journal. So that is the history, briefly, of that. But since graduating 1967, I've been involved with the department for a number of years. It all started at a meeting in Denver. And I walked up to Lyle Johnson. I said, Lyle, I've been in practice 17 years. I'm doing pretty good, and I think that I can contribute in the area of practice management. So from 1984 to about 2000, 2003, every year I would go to St. Louis University. I'd have 2 suitcases, one full of letters, one full of forms, to help people build a practice. And one day, this young man opened the door for me, and he helped me with these suitcases. And I kept noticing him throughout the day. I said, Barbara, there's one guy that got caught my eye. You know, I'm getting a little stressed. Maybe it's time to think about bringing in an associate. So I knew his name was Tom Broderick. So I called Linda, and I said, Linda, let me speak with Tom. She said, he's in Ohio looking. And as they say, the rest is history, right, Tom? We all know that the world of orthodontics has changed since many of us entered the profession. Yesterday, Lyle spoke on killing the last tiger. It reminded me of a time many years ago when Pete Soteropoulos was in town, and as he left, he hung his head out the window. He said, "Leon, write an article for the newsletter." So of course I did. In those days, many general dentists were doing their own periodontics, oral surgery, endodontics, but very few were getting into orthodontics. So my topic, Lyle, was, are they killing the last tiger? Really? And my article stressed that there's no shortcuts to becoming a good qualified orthodontist. You have to go to an accredited, good program. You have to continue with continuing education like we are here this weekend. That all of that is necessary, and at the end of the day, we will prevail because the cream will rise to the top. And I think most of you in this room will agree with that. We all have our defining moments, and I probably could add a few more to this, but I've listed 7. Graduated from high school in Adel, Georgia, population 3,000, class of size of 90, and I continue to go to class reunions. I have my 60th coming up this year, and Barbara always looks forward to that. But graduating from high school and not knowing what I was going to do. And my brother-in-law, who is Zach's grandfather, who wanted to go to dental school, he came out of World War II, was flooded with applicants, he couldn't get in. He said, "Leon, why don't you be a dentist?" I said, "Okay." So I became a dentist. And certainly at the final moment was married my little sparrow Barbara. No doubt. And I mentioned that call from Ken Marshall that said, "I have a spot for you. Choosing Savannah for a place to live and practice." I don't think anyone could argue with that. Doctors Marshall, Johnston, Soteropoulos, Barretts, and Eladio De Leon encouraging me to get involved with teaching. It's great. Back to St. Lucie for a second. After the suitcases and all of that, Joe Median, Jim Vaden, and I are involved every year with going to St. Louis to review the cases that are being presented. So that's a great experience, and Joe's recently come on board, but he's certainly added a lot to our group. Lou Holtz, football coach and motivational speaker, when talking about his life and success, said, "Share the credit." So tonight I share the credit for this high honor with all of those names that I've mentioned tonight and so many more that have been such an important part of Barbara and my life. And of all of you who are in attendance, and a big, big, big